Welcome back. It's been a few days since I've just solved some random puzzles, so I'm going to do that today. Hopefully I won't embarrass myself, and maybe we'll learn something. Alright, I'm just going to get right to it. These are random puzzles on chess.com, and they are rated. This is my highest puzzle rating ever. Unlike the mates in 4, mates in 3 that we did recently on these random puzzles, we don't know what the tactic is. We do know that I am playing with the black pieces. Because of where this knight is, I know that any move I make with the knight is going to be check. Presumably, of the possible knight moves, one is better than the other. For example, I could take the rook with check, and then I would just be up a rook. But then the question is, where's the king going to go at that point? At that point, the opponent cannot block that check, so they would have to move either to f1 or e2. If they move to f1 at that point, I would have checkmate right there on f2, guarded by the knight that's still in the corner. If I took the rook and the king went to e2, I would still have this check on f2, but then the king would have another escape square. And I suppose at that point, no, I was going to say I could take this pawn, but no, the queen would be guarding the pawn at that point. Just following this out in my head, I mean, I'm up a rook at that point, but now the king moves here. It has to. And my knight is in danger. And I don't have a follow-up check. Not a very good one. It would be great if my queen wasn't right there at that point, because then I could bring my knight back and that would be a check. It almost makes me wonder if I shouldn't put the knight somewhere else for this check and leave the rook alone. And again, the king is only going to have those same two legal moves, e1, f1, and e2. And if it went to f1, I would have the mate right there on f2. So I assume it would not go there. I assume that it would, this square would be off limits because my knight would also be cutting off that square. I forgot about that one earlier. That was a possibility in the other iteration too when I took the rook. But if I moved my knight to e4, that does cut off this square. So, and again, if the king goes there, it's mate. So let's say the king would come here. Then I could check on f2, protected by my knight sitting back here, and my knight's not over there in danger. Let's say this is what happens. But again, the king can go to d3. Right? That's a discovered check. King comes here. I check with my queen. King goes here. I would be able to then move the knight here with a discovered check. Would that be mate? That might be mate. And I don't think I would come up with a mate if the knight was down there. I need the knight here on e4. King goes there, it's mate. If the king comes here, I bring my queen in to f2. And now let's see. My queen would be cutting off all these squares as well as all these, so it would force the king here. Then I would move the knight to c5. And that would be mate. Because my knight would be covering this square and that one, and the king has nowhere to go. Okay, that was it. All right, well, it took me for almost 5 minutes, but that's the way it goes. I want it to be right. And also, I need to learn to to start just calculating these out, and so that I will start recognizing those patterns in the game. The problem here, I think, for the white player with the white pieces is that this wall of their bishops and pawns on the c file was going to end up getting the king trapped here, and that's what happened because my piece is cutting off all these squares, and of course the knight hitting these two. So, all right, my highest ever puzzle rating on chess.com. We're going to click the next button. Okay, we're in a queen and rook endgame with 3 pawns apiece. I have a pawn 1 step from promotion, but they are guarding that square 2 different ways. They have a passed pawn, and I am protecting its or guarding the next square for it. But the difference here is that when they move their pawn, that's going to be a discovered check. So that is definitely a difference. I would be able to block the check at that point, but then they would, I assume, take my queen, and I would take their queen, and then they would advance their pawn, and I can't catch it. So that's what would happen if it were black to play, I think. Right? I mean, you can't catch that pawn at that point. But it's white to play, and white has a winning move. We know that because of the way puzzles are constructed. I do know that I have a check, and that check also coincidentally blocks their passed pawn. I don't know if that's the best move. It's just the only check that I see. Yeah, that's the only check that I see, and it blocks their passed pawn. But their king fairly easily gets out of that check because, I mean, all it has to do is get off that diagonal. I suppose the queen could block as well, or the pawn could move up. That's another option. If I checked here, they could just push this pawn, but then I can check behind where the pawn is no longer there with my rook, I guess. Is this winning? I don't think they would move the pawn for that reason. I think they would just get the queen, get their king off that diagonal. Now, they shouldn't get it off this way, I'm pretty sure, because then I would have checkmate on a7. But if I check here and they go there, I don't have the checkmate on a7. What do I have? I don't know. Because I can't, from here, I can't get over to the A file except to a7. I think if they escaped this way, I could still go to a7, but they get out of that too. So it looks like they have 3 different routes that are safe. The only one that they cannot do is go to a5 because I would have checkmate on a7. So that may not be the most forcing move. It seems like it might be. I just had a brain surge, I guess, a power surge in my brain. What if, when I put my queen here on e3, checking their king, what if at that time my rook had access to those squares along the 7th rank? That would change this dramatically, I think. For example, if I push this pawn first, let them take it. I don't think it would matter which one they took with. No. That has to be my second move. Because I was thinking, what if I did this and they took, and then I checked here? Then they wouldn't have those choices anymore. They would only have these choices, and then I could go to a7 protected by my rook, and it would be mate. But if I promote here, They could take with their queen. And I've just lost a pawn. And then if I check, they can go here. And when I go down to a7, it's not mate because now their queen's not on that file anymore and they can come back there. So maybe I need to do the check first, see where they go, and then promote. And then I'll have something here. Another problem with promoting first is they still have this. They are still able to move this pawn forward with this discovered check, and then after that, however I take care of that check, then they could pick up the pawn. So I think the check has to be first, but we got to find out. I can't keep going back and forth, and I do not see the end point to the puzzle yet. I just looks like that's better. Okay, that was better. Oh, and they blocked with their queen. Okay. Well, that undefended this pawn. I didn't think they would block with their queen. I mean, I knew it was a possibility, but I did not think that they would. I thought that they would get off of the diagonal somehow. I don't think it's a good idea to take the queen at this point, because when then they take back, then they have 3 passed pawns. Well, I mean, they have 3 passed pawns now, but they're going to have 3 passed pawns, and I'm not going to have a queen. And my rook is tied up to protecting my passed pawn, so I wouldn't be able to stop them. I think it's best to take this pawn. Or do I? If I take the pawn, what about this? Then they'll pin my queen to my king. Oh my. I don't know about that. Well, they can't do that if I promote first. If I promote, won't they just take this queen? But then I would take the rook with check. Because if I take, they take back, and then I promote, they just capture it. But if I promote, they could still just capture it. And then I take this pawn? Or should I take the pawn first? You know what? I could take the pawn first, and then they would come here. I would capture their rook, sacrificing my queen for it. But then I would be in check, and I would have to get out of check. Perhaps this way. And then they would be able to stop my passed pawn. I have no idea. I really don't know. Or should I attack their rook? Force their rook to move somewhere. Wouldn't it just move further back the file then? Oh no, their queen is there. Well, this is complicated. I got the first move right, but it was just because I had to make a move. I think I might just have to make a move here. And I don't know whether it's promoting to a queen. If I do promote to a queen, they are attacking here. My queen would be pointing at their queen, and their queen is pinned, so it wouldn't be able to take my queen. So if I promote, and they captured, then I would take their pawn. But yeah, I still think this is bad. If I take their queen, I can't catch this pawn. That's the problem. So it's either taking the pawn or promoting. I'm going to promote. That was it. And they did take it. So now I take this pawn because now they can't do this. I think that's it. Oh! Oh, and I gained 1 point for it because apparently I got the first move correct. Well, if it wasn't that... Oh, was it removing the defender? Okay. I see it now. I bet it's that. Because I couldn't do that before because my pawn was in the way. But now I've moved my pawn. I can put my rook over here, check. The king doesn't have to take it, but it does have to vacate the spot that's defending the queen. Okay. And now I can catch the pawn. All right, well, I mean, I gained a point for it, so good for me. Oh, that took a second to get to the next puzzle. Okay, well, 23-12, wow. All right, I have been put in check. I notice there's a small percentage of the puzzles, maybe 10 to 20% in which starts with me being in check. Well, I have to get out of check. And there's only 3 legal moves, I think. I do notice that their rook is pinned, so I do not have to worry about them capturing my rook. One legal move here is to block, but I think that would be ridiculous because they will just capture it and we will be in the same situation, but without the pin. Okay, but that rook is pinned, so let's keep that in mind. That leaves me 2 legal moves. I can't go that way because even though the rook is pinned, that's still check. So I have to go this way. Too bad my rook can't temporarily move diagonally. I have to go to c8 or c7. So since this is a puzzle, that means one of those moves is better than the others. One of those moves is better than the other. I honestly can't see why one would be better than the other. Let's see. If I go to c8, they're going to be able to follow up check me here or here. Not there because my queen would be able to then capture their queen. And not there because I think my rook would capture their queen. So, and then what? Well, from either one of those spots, my queen could come back to block, right? So I think that's okay. What's wrong with this? Okay, well, from c7, they could check me here and threaten to win one of my pawns. Okay, I think, okay, the problem with c8 is that they can check me here and be forking my rook. And if I try to come back to d8, then they can check me here. I don't know. Neither one of them looks great, but those are my only 2 choices, right? I can't, like, capture the queen this way or this way. I mean, we've all wished for our queen to be able to move like a knight at some point, but it's going to be one of the 2. And the only difference, really, that I mean, in either one of them, the opponent can check me again. I see in c8, the queen can block. And if I move my king to c7, then my queen can't block. But yeah, they can check me again, and then they're defending their rook. But that's the same if I move here. They can check me from there and defend the rook. But then I block. No. If I block, then they take my rook. Oh my goodness. So it's, which one is it? That one? Oh, I just flipped the coin in my head and picked one. Okay. Yeah, I couldn't have blocked with the queen because that left this to attack my rook. And right now I need that pin in place. Okay, do I move again? I can't get closer. That's the problem with the queen, because it hits all those squares. It's not like the rook where you can go up next to it. I could go back, but then they do this and hit my rook that way. Do I just keep going? Wait, if I keep going... No, if I go... They can't check me here because of my pawn. If I keep going, they could check me here. But then what? I don't know. Oh, they took that. Wait, no, now I... What? I'm so confused. And that puzzle was only rated 1888. I'm going to click the analysis board, and I know that it's offset just a little bit. Oh, well, it all fits on there. That's what's important. Okay, this was the beginning of the puzzle, and the opponent checked me, but that was a blunder. And it says king to c7. If I go to c, look at the difference. You see the Stockfish recommendations up there? That chess.com logo's in the way. Yeah, there's a huge difference. This is minus almost 4, and this is plus 15. What would they have done if I'd gone to c8? They'd check me here, and then I would go back, I assume, because I got to protect my rook. Oh, and then they would check. Then they would take my rook. It doesn't matter because that's still protected. Oh my! And then I would go to king to c7, and then they would check me here and force a queen trade. Okay. Wow. Okay. But c7, they can't do that. Oh, because my king is protecting that square. That's what it was. That's the difference. Is my king protected the c6 square. Okay, now c5 is their best move, which is what they did in the puzzle, correct? Yes. And only one move works, and I just managed to pick it. If I go back... What? That I don't understand. It says if I go back to d7 to protect my rook, they wouldn't even try to check again. I didn't go back. No, wait. Yes, they would try to... Okay, that's what it was. If I went back to d8, they would check me on a5. Okay. But for some reason, when I went to b7, which... No, that one blunders. b8 blunders big time. When I went to b7, I think the problem with b8 is that then they can check me here. But here, the only follow-up check they have is that. Really? Why is that their best move? That's what threw me off in the puzzle. It says the queen taking my b4 pawn is their best move. Or king to d2. No, d2 to protect the rook. Maybe. Or queen to d5 check, which is only like -5. That's what I thought they would do, and I thought, where would I go then? But it says and I was right that I would go up. Okay. But why did they take... That's what I don't understand. Why is that their best move? Well, it doesn't say why that's the best move. It just says if they do that, I should take their queen, which I did. But why is this so much worse? Because I would move up, and then... Why? Oh, they can't check me here because my queen guards that square. Their only remaining check. And as soon as they stop checking, I take their rook. Okay. That's why they had to take the pawn. Well, that threw me off during the puzzle, so Okay, well, we're at 25 minutes. I don't know. Might as well do a couple more. I'm having better luck than I thought I would. Okay. I don't know what it captured there. It moved too quickly for me, but I have a check, but the king would just get out of check. Is that it? Just taking a pawn? Surely not. And I can't check here because of the queen. And I have no other pieces to bring to bear. In fact, yeah, I'm down 2 bishops. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm readjusting my chair here. I'm not seeing it. Not at all. I'm guessing what the opponent was supposed to have done in that situation was come here, putting me in check and basically forcing forcing a queen trade. But instead they went here. Maybe I had another rook here, and that's how they got ahead on material. I don't know what else I can do other than put them in check. No, that turned out to be right. I can check them again, but not here, probably, because again their queen is on that diagonal. What if I go here? They're just going to go back, aren't they? I would assume. I couldn't then take that pawn because of their bishop. I could start advancing pawns. I could take that pawn with... what if I checked them first and then took this pawn with my pawn? And then I would have a passed pawn right here. And right? Because they're not going to give up their bishop for that. I may be way off base here, but I mean, a check is a very forcing move. Obviously, they would have 2 choices there, but I think then I could take that pawn. I don't see anything else. Because I can't take the pawn now, because then the bishop takes it, and I'm in trouble. I'm just going to check again. Oh, that was it. And it went toward the center. Well, it would be silly to go back. Surely we're not trying to draw here. Should I take the pawn? Nope. Taking the pawn was not it. Was it checking again? Oh, are we trying to do a perpetual check? Is that what this is? If I check on H2, they're just going to go back, right? But they also could go back if I check here. I don't get it. I do not get it. Now take the pawn? No, surely not. Why was that the answer? They can just get out of check again. Okay, I'm going to hit the analysis board. And, all right. Yeah, this one, I don't even remember what it was rated. Did it say what it was rated? No, it was rated 2007. Okay. It says, I was right. They were supposed to have gone here to check me to force a queen trade. Oh, no, but it's changed its mind now. But that was one thing that I was thinking, and then and then they would be up 2 bishops, right? That's what I thought their best move was. Now it's actually saying bishop to g4 check is their best move, and then I would have to move over, and then they would play queen to e1, and then I would take it, and then they would take me, and then they would just be up 2 bishops. Okay, that's what they should have done. But instead they did that. What was there? Oh, my knight. They took my knight. Okay. So then okay, it was drawing. You see the Stockfish recommendations way up there on the screen. It's all about maintaining the draw. Everything but this loses. This maintains equality. The king is forced to G1. There's no other choice. So it went there. Now there's only one move that maintains equality. Anything else loses. It says if I took this pawn, which was one of my ideas, they would play queen to f1, trying to trade off our queens. But first I checked, which is the only move that maintains equality. I don't know why they didn't go back. Oh, they could have gone back, and then it still would have left me with only a couple of choices. Now here, they went to f1. Okay, yeah, and that's my idea here. Where I failed to puzzle the first time was taking that pawn. And it says if I did that, then they would check me here, and I would have to move out of check. And then they would play queen to h5, just ignoring the fact that I took that pawn. Okay. I don't know how that's winning. I mean, I do know that the opponent is ahead on material. So is that it? My only choice now is to check them. Now they can come up, which is what they did in the puzzle. Or they can go back, and that still maintains equality. Or they can move over. That's what it says. If they moved over, oh, I can't check them here because of the bishop. Okay, so my only choice then, they have to move out of check, and my only choice is to check them again. Everything else loses. And now they can just move back, or even forward. The only thing they can't do here is go there. Because if they go to king to e1, I play queen to g1, and it's mate because my pawn guards that square, and my queen would hit these two. Okay. But they can go forward or backward, and it's still equality, and we're just going to repeat moves, perpetual check. All right. Well, I don't know what my rating is right now because it says unrated here after I failed the puzzle, so I have to click next to find out what my rating is, 2310. Well, I went up a net of 4 points. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.